And if you threw a party.
If you threw a party.
And invited everyone you knew.
Invited everybody.
You would see the biggest gift would be from me. Card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. Dun, 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 dun.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Jonathan.
It's the greatest.
That was a great way to bring in the show. The show.
It's the show.
Did I just call it the show?
The show.
What kind of
Let's
corny
go.
shit?
It's the show.
Holy moly.
You're getting too big for your britches over there.
Holy moly. Heather, I don't think you know what you stepped into today.
I'm excited.
In rare form today.
Jonathan didn't tell you about what we do up here. We like to play. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, we like to party.
We like to play in our authenticity. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
There's a lot of cameras. There's these microphones. And oftentimes when people turn on the mics and turn on the cameras, they become characters.
Yeah.
You know, we like to stay authentic in front of the cameras and behind the cameras and on this microphone.
Like to keep the character consistent.
You know, we are trying to, build, do our part to invest in the community of communicators that like to spread the gift of the word.
Absolutely.
And we believe that, games should be given away for free. There's a lot of people that we say like to gatekeep information or,
Very true.
you know what I'm saying, gatekeep opportunities. You know what I'm saying?
Gatekeepers.
We like to, right, exactly. That's how we feel about gatekeepers. So here at the Phree Game Podcast, we like to break down these norms. We like to have the hard conversations. We like to be authentic and honest. We don't claim to be, I'm a professional of my life. Mm-hmm. I'm an expert of my life. I am, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
We are not, I like to say we are people with opinions, and opinions are like assholes, and I have one. So, but also more professionally, and, speaking of professional, I am the unprofessional opinion here. We have figured out on the
Really?
Phree Game Podcast.
And I wouldn't say that, but
No, I mean, it's been kind of alluded to, I would say.
alluded to.
If you listen back to the podcast, I was just you will hear that.
Shout outs to everybody that watched the previous episodes. We truly appreciate y'all.
Yo, our friends is killing it in the views.
So I'm gonna make a promise. Listen, if you make a comment on a YouTube video, we will make sure to give you a shout out.
Ooh.
I didn't clear that with Free first.
No, you didn't. You see how things happen around
But
here?
this can be edited later if
But
Free's not feeling
We're
it.
not editing. We're not editing. It's crazy. We're not editing. No, for real. That's a dope idea. Thank you for including that in this. This is dope.
So say something in the comments and we'll say something back to you.
I actually
For real.
want to do like a raffle because, we're at our 100th. I'm about to be at 100 milestone. I know that's light. Don't be hating. All y'all out there that think 100 followers ain't shit. Excuse my French, Heather. I'm gonna introduce y'all. I know you see Heather here. We're gonna get to Heather. Thank you, Heather, for being patient. We're talking with you, please. Y'all will know about Heather in a second. I know y'all looking like, well, y'all ain't even gonna tell us who this new face, gorgeous
that we've not
face
seen before,
person
right?
is.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know,
Take your time.
just
Take
here
your
and
time.
vibrant, and I love it. Like I love it. Just like yes, you fit right in. Puzzle piece. We
Take
love
your
puzzle
time.
pieces.
Take your
Puzzle
time.
pieces. And yeah. So I guess I'll just go right into it. Right. You are here. I'm gonna intro the pod because sometimes we go off and we start talking, and then 50 minutes in, I'm like, oh, guess what, y'all? Y'all are at the Phree Game Podcast. Hey. So here we are, y'all. We are at the Phree Game Podcast once again. The podcast that we do it for our friends. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, podcast for the people.
But because that's the people that watch us only is our friends.
That's not true. We got a lot of eyes on us. You know what I'm saying?
I'm teasing, but we've been getting a lot of feedback, good feedback. I'm going to keep saying that because I keep getting new feedback from those out there in the world for the pod. So I want to thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Please subscribe to the channel. You will be notified when pods come out that you want to listen to. I promise you that we try to keep them brief so you're not listening to us for 3 hours at a time, 2 hours at a time. We try to keep it under an hour. Most of our pods are, between the 30 and 40 minute window because we understand that time is fleeting and people's attention spans are not that long. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for those that are, donating their time to listening to us and what we have to offer to the world. So thank you. Once again, you are at the Phree Game Podcast. My name is Phree. I am joined by my co-host each and every pod. Gratitude for you.
Hey, we out here. What's up? It's your man, JG. We in the building.
Yeah.
And we have a special guest with us today.
Sure do.
Hey, do you want to introduce yourself?
So my name's Heather Yoho, and I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. And I moved
Shout
up
outs to the
here.
Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ohio in the building.
I am. OH.
Okay.
Okay.
Big OH.
Go Buckeyes.
That is the guys, yeah.
Are you a Buckeyes fan?
I'm going to have to say yes.
Okay.
Just to honor my
Your
my
hometown.
my late brother. So
Okay.
I want to honor him. So
Sorry to hear
he was a huge Buckeye fan. So
Yeah.
I want to honor him with that.
Okay.
I went to Ohio State. So I'm just not a huge fan. But
That's okay. We won't tell anybody.
No one watches this. I'm telling you.
but I support his memory and everything.
Mm.
Shout out to your brother.
Yes. So Justin.
Justin. I was
Yep.
going to ask you.
Yep. So Justin.
Shout out to Justin.
And he's a big part of who I am and everything that I do. And I moved up here. I am in clinical research, and I am now going into media and medicine. So I am a filmmaker right now, doing a film documentary.
Nice.
But everything that I do kind of stems from my relationship with my brother, and keeping his memory and his honor alive. So
Awesome.
it's really that core relationship that defines everything that I do.
So will you tell us a little bit about your research and maybe how that relates to your brother, since you're saying he's such a defining feature of the things that you do?
Right now I am actually working on a project with the young adult population and cardiac conditions. So he actually passed away at 36. He had a heart attack in the shower, and he passed away within a minute. And he had no known heart conditions. Thank you. And I feel that a lot of the population thinks that cardiac conditions is over the age of 36 and like the 40s and 50s. And that's where all of the research is. And I really want to highlight that anyone can have cardiac conditions. Anyone can have a sudden cardiac death. It's not just the older population. And I am doing research in multiple areas. I am focusing right now currently on the female population. But I also want to focus on why is this population have such a high death rate. And I also then want to do a study on athletes in this population and unknown cardiac conditions until they have a stroke or a heart attack while playing.
Right.
So it's like I have multiple things in the pipeline, but it's like, why is the young adult population and cardiac conditions, like, why is it so overlooked? And why are we just not getting help from the medical community?
Got it.
No, sorry.
Yeah. So, wow, that's a big area to be researching. The young population is obviously a very large population, and like you said, a lot of these cardiac conditions are not discovered until there actually is an incident that occurs. And so how have you been able to focus your study? How are you carrying that out? And how do you plan to deliver your results, I guess?
So I'm focusing right now, my first study is ages 18 to 36 in the female population. I'm looking at those that have been gaslit by the medical community, just like I was. I started having some issues when I was 18 years old, and I was kind of brushed aside by doctors that they were saying, oh, you're too young to have a serious heart condition. Like, go away. And it wasn't until I actually collapsed at an ER that they took me seriously. And I also was told by a ER doctor, this was in 2023, so just last year. And I took my mom because no one was taking me seriously. So I was in an ER with my mom, and the doctor looked at my mom, wouldn't even speak to me, and was like, do you want us to lock her in the psych ward for 24 hours? I'm sure all her symptoms will go away. They're in her head. Wow. So it was then that I was like, okay, this is insane. Like, something's seriously wrong with me. I've been passing out daily for a week, and they think it's in my head. And I went out into the community, and I find out I'm not alone. There's stories after stories after stories with young females in their 20s and their 30s that's had this exact same thing basically happen to them, saying that it's female anxiety, that they're going crazy, that it's all in their head. And doctors turn them away. So I started looking at what can I do to make a difference. And I was in another job, and my health got very bad. And I decided to make a switch, a career pivot. And you can career pivot at 30. Like, there's not an issue with that.
Thank you. Say that again, Heather, for the people in the back of the room.
You can career pivot at 30. Like,
you can.
Do that.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I found this media and medicine program at Harvard Medical School where I could take my clinical research that I already had a master's in, do this certificate program at Harvard, and take my research, but use media to actually make a difference in the world. So I'm doing a film documentary to showcase stories of real life patients that have gone through the same issues that I have gone through, to highlight the issues. And I'm talking to these doctors, and they're like, this needs to be seen by medical students. This needs to be seen by the world. Like, they are talking that I should pitch it to PBS, to Netflix, to Hulu. Like, they really want this to be broadcasted, widespread, to show everyone these issues, because it's not a race issue. It's not a black-white issue. It's a gender issue, and women are getting gaslit until the point where some of them are getting to the point that they are almost dying until doctors are taking them seriously. And it breaks my heart that I can relate to a lot of these patients that's in my film. I went to Atlanta to get a patient story. It was 26 years of being misdiagnosed until she was taken seriously. And it just breaks my heart that it's, why are we not taken seriously? And people just want to be like, oh, you're a female, it's anxiety. And I'm like, and I've also heard, oh, you're emotional. You're an emotional female. And if I hear that one more time, it's like, why are doctors looking at us differently? And I want to change it, and I want to change it for everyone.
Got it. The first time that we met was actually at an art gallery opening.
It was.
And we were just randomly chatting over cheese and crackers.
Yes. Very good cheese.
Are you an artist as well?
I am not.
I mean,
I cannot
you're going
even
into visual.
I cannot even draw a stick figure.
But mixed media. Mixed media. I mean, you're going into visual arts right now. You putting a documentary together.
I can do that. I just cannot draw.
Yeah. Well,
it's a different art.
So
we'll have that conversation at a later date. Different pod. I mean, you can come back for that conversation on the pod.
A good friend of ours, actually, a friend of the pod, who is an artist that we met at SOA, Michelle Beauchard, was having an art opening.
Michelle.
Michelle was having an art opening, and we happened to meet there. And we were chatting over cheese and crackers, and you were telling me a little bit about your documentary, and it definitely struck a chord as someone who has had a lot of exposure to the medical establishment and has a chronic illness and has often had to kind of like fight through and wade through a lot of disbelief, a lot of dismissal to get a diagnosis, to get proper treatment. And we were talking about how your research is focused on women. A lot of that coming from your personal experience and, you know, other people that you've met and know. And I was definitely drawing parallels to what a lot of Black people go through in the medical establishment. And that kind of like immediately struck a chord. And kind of in the discourse there, it somehow came up that we had a podcast.
Yes.
And so that kind of explains why you're here today, but you had something specific in mind, right?
Yes. So actually, like when I said that it's never too late to kind of career pivot, but I was actually through my first master's at the George Washington University, I was on a health equity lab, and I believe very much in health equity and equality for all. And I believe that I want help getting more equity into my documentary. I do have some, but I feel that it's not a good mixture yet. And I believe that for me personally, in order to fully say that this is a good documentary, that I do need a little bit more help getting a few more Black female patients to be able to tell their story. And that is just something that I wholeheartedly believe in is very important in order to be well-rounded and make the documentary not one-sided, to make it well-rounded, because I believe very much in equality and equity.
Can you tell us, and this is probably not part of your particular conversation, but when you step into the
Absolutely.
Phree Game Podcast, we tend to have conversations that
Please.
become more general, and then it's
Please.
more like insightful knowledge. Can we were having a conversation about equity and equality.
Yeah.
Maybe not us, but I mentioned it this past week, and I named it to a car with a few people in it. And I'm interested in your perspective of what the difference is. And a lot of people that, think of equality, or they're quick to say, even people of color that believe, we should be equal. And I'm like, well, what about equity, right? What does equity look like? And some people don't understand the difference. And to you, I guess I might pose the question, what is equity versus equality in regards to the film, in regards to what you're seeking, in regards to, how it's beneficial in this particular context?
So for me, I want to go back to like what health equity, like I believe that everyone is entitled to getting access to medicine, good healthcare. We should be giving the same quality of healthcare to all populations. And I think that right now in America, that's where we are failing. I feel that the same level of healthcare and doctors need to be across the board. And that's the number one thing that I fought for when I helped co-author an anti-racism medical school curriculum at George Washington University. We went out into the public of DC, and we went to all of the wards, and we were like, what do you feel is lacking in this medical system? And the number one thing was the level of doctors. I feel that everyone should have the same access to doctors. I feel also equity is the same level playing field for access to healthy food, because that is important to a healthy lifestyle, and transportation to doctors. So all of these levels, social determinants of health, fall into equity. I feel that equality is making sure that people are treated equally. But I think equity is how we treat them inside of the medical system. So equity in my film is making sure that I give everyone a voice. I want to make sure that all Black and brown and white voices are heard in my documentary, because this is not an issue of color. This is a woman's issue. So I want to get as many demographics as I can to outline that we are all gaslit. We are all having these issues. I actually was at a film festival in New Bedford, and I was talking to a Black woman that was in her 50s. And I was telling her, she wanted to know why I chose this topic. And I was like, I had 2 projects that I could have done. I could have done this one or sudden cardiac death, because I want you to be able to speak on what you can personally put yourself into for the project at Harvard. And sudden cardiac death right now is a little too soon, because it's just been a little over a year that my brother passed. And I'm like, I want to do this film, but it's way too soon. Like, I cannot put myself into that yet to dive deep into it and do it right. So I chose what I could personally speak on. And she's like, do you mind if I hear your story? And she's like, she took a step back and she was like, oh my goodness, I actually need to apologize, because I thought Black women were the only ones that had these issues and were the only ones treated like this by doctors. She's like, I did not realize that it was a white woman's issue as well. So equity in terms of my film is making sure that everyone's voice is heard. And I actually got asked by the directors of my program at the beginning. They're like, a lot of people are doing podcasts for their media. Why do you want film? And I'm like, I'm doing a film documentary because I believe the demographics and the color of one's skin is important to be shown, not just hearing their stories. I think that it's important to see the person and hear their story, which I couldn't do as well through the podcast. I wanted it to be a film documentary so the people can come through more. I can get more of their life. I can get the B-roll of their lifestyle. I can get the B-roll of them just living their life and getting an insight to their life and into their story, because that to me is equity.
Thank you for answering that. I want to ask you about the film itself in its current state. So you said that you obviously have done your own research in your studies and things, and now for the actual film, what kind of research have you done thus far, and the research that you need? I know you spoke to needing more interviews, right?
Yes.
Black and brown presence. So how far along are you in completing the documentary, and where have you come? Like, where are you now? Where are you now in the documentary process?
I'm actually like wrapping up. I have 2 more interviews that I'm actually completing tomorrow and next week. But I need like 1 to 2 more patient interviews that I have actually, like, I'm capped off that I am looking for the diversity. So I want to make sure that I'm equitable. So I am looking for Black and brown voices for that. But I've combined all of the research that's out there for the stats for this population. What I'm focusing on is stories that cardiac conditions have gone delayed or misdiagnosed from ages 18 to 36, and also stories that women have been gaslit by the medical community. And I'm tying those all together. The gaslighting does not have to be cardiac related. It just has to be within like the 18 to 36 range. And I got doctors to kind of talk on both subjects. Because I've been finding out that the cardiac conditions, if they go undiagnosed a long time, they're leading to other conditions. So the stories developed outside of the cardiac realm, because it's kind of just all stems from the medical gaslighting. And I've gotten top cardiologists and top functional integrative doctors and just normal physicians and ER doctors across the country that's also in the documentary. Also, the doctors themselves, I'm also making sure that they are of diverse backgrounds as well, because like I said, I don't think even the doctors should all come from the white population as well. I think that, and I'm finding they all have different stories to tell as well. So it's really interesting. And I'm trying to wrap up the interviews by the first week of June. And then I'm going to be editing it and putting a rough cut together by the end of June, and then finalizing the summer and shipping it out to see where it lands.
That's
So,
exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And this is just my first one. Like, my goal is to actually open up a film studio.
Let's
and
go.
Let's go.
Go film studio.
Like,
You got to put it out there. You got to say it. And then that's
like
how it
God
manifests.
will. Come on, God.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? That's it. And, you know, the work that you're intentionally doing, you know, now is an asset to the bigger dream to continue. Yeah. I have so many questions.
Bring them on.
Like and this is why he's over there cheesing like that, because he knew exactly what he was doing by bringing you here. Like he does this all the time.
I wouldn't bring anybody on the podcast that we can't have a real conversation with.
There's just, I'm just sitting here like, you know, my first question is, have you thought about, so I guess it's a 2-part question. Have you thought about queerness in that demographic, right? And if not, or whether the answer to that is yes or no or whatever, do you think that queerness is important within the scope of being gaslit in the system, being, you know, could attribute to being harmed by the system, as well as being brown or black? Queerness, you know, I am also someone, it's not about me, but I am someone who, you know, suffers from medical conditions unseen. And it's bigger than, you're here for the documentary, but I'm someone that
I'm here to talk, Phree.
No,
I'm not just here for the documentary.
I just want to say, I want to express my gratitude in the moment, because I think that initially it was like, oh, there's a documentary happening. But as I'm sitting here, as usual, I'm like, oh no, this is like some real shit. I'm someone who fits the description of who you're trying to represent. I suffer from endometriosis. It is, you know, something that has been challenging to manage, and endometriosis is something that is not curable. So it's about management, and a lot of times it's hormonal, and that also affects the heart. I've passed out. I've had heart palpitation, all these things. Yeah. And when I go to the emergency room and the several trips, it's, anxiety. And it's the first thing is, give me a pill for my anxiety. Give me, you know, it's always, every time I go in about my pain with endometriosis, they don't believe me. They think I'm dramatic. You know, I'm doing too much. And it's like, they think I'm there for the drugs. And actually I am anti medicine. I don't do medicine. I have to do Advil, which isn't even good for but I switch between Tylenol and Advil. That's my cocktail, we call it, for pain, because I refuse. I've been given morphine. I've been given, you know, Percocets. I've been given oxy. You know, I'm allergic to oxycodone. So it's been a journey, right? I will be 38 this year. I was diagnosed with endometriosis some 10 years ago now, something. You know, I've had major surgery. I've always believed that there was something going on with my heart. And every time I say it, they tell me that I'm too young to have heart problems. That I was a cigarette smoker when I was younger for many years. And, you know, they're like, well, you don't smoke cigarettes anymore. And so, like, you're fine, you're young. And it's like, nah, but my chest don't feel that way. And sometimes even when I have flare-ups, because with endometriosis, you have chronic flare-ups, and my heart, I could feel what my heart is doing, and it don't feel good, it don't feel right. And hormonally, again, maybe people don't understand how the reproductive system works. But like, as women, we need our reproductive system for our heart to work, you know? And so someone with endometriosis whose, you know, solution is, you know, to take your entire uterus out, now that affects my heart. And so I am, people often say to me, well, Phree, if you deal with it, just take it out. You're not going to have any kids. Remove your ovaries. I'm someone that, my right fallopian, I don't have a right fallopian tube. It was removed because of the illness. So like already my reproductive system is being chipped at, and I am in fear because it's not even about, I don't have any children. I would love children, but I understand that like my shot at that, and I'm queer. So, there's even things with the system that they say like, well, we can't freeze your eggs or none of that because, you're queer and you have to try a couple of. I've been told that I have to try a certain amount of times to get pregnant with a guy before I can get assistance with in vitro. That's what I've been told. But because now I have the condition that I have, and I literally will need in vitro to have a successful pregnancy. So anyways, this wasn't about me, but I wanted to share it because I think it is very interesting that this research is being done. And although you're not referencing endometriosis in particular,
I've actually have another patient.
That was going to be my question to you.
Actually has done the endometriosis because it was misdiagnosed for so long that how they found it was through the cardiac conditions that it caused.
Yeah, I've been misdiagnosed since I was 16 years old. I believe I've had it, and I didn't find out until I was almost my 30.
Yeah.
I had major surgery, and still today, they are saying my heart is fine. I've done the test. They're like, the exercise machine, let me monitor your heart.
I hate that test.
They do it.
Stress test is
the stress test. That's
the
what
worst
it's called.
thing. I have passed out every single time I've done it. I've done about 4 times now, and they're like, "Oh, you're fine," and I'm like, "I just passed out during
like
it."
I'm afraid to run because the way my heart.
Right.
Same.
But also just I'm loving the flow. I'm not going to interrupt too much, but stress tests, right, are coded to typically a white male of a certain age and health profile.
Yep.
They're like, this is typical, and this is what a typical person can endure stress-wise, and as long as things don't go off the chart, if we push you to this limit, then we know that you're okay. And the thing that gets swept under the rug so much, particularly with women and also with people of color, people's threshold for pain, for suffering, all of this stuff has an effect on your body and the way that your body processes. And so if your baseline of stress is higher than what they're expecting is normal, then they may not even push you to the point of being overstressed because that's just your baseline. People that have chronic medical conditions, chronic pain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And so it's like, yeah, we have to use something different than a stress test. And one of the things that frustrates me so much about the medical establishment, and shout outs to the medical establishment. I got a new kidney. I'm going to live for so many more years than would be expected with the conditions that I have, right? But like, just the idea of we have to try the cheapest thing first, or we have to try to get somebody that's not related to the situation at all, not a doctor, not a patient, to approve this treatment before we can even consider giving it to you, until you're in an emergent situation where we have no other choice, to me is just bananas. And that's a huge part of the gaslighting, right? Is like eliminating options of care by dismissing self-reporting. And we live in our own bodies. We know what's going on. You know what makes your heart behave differently, right? And they're like, well, we have to prove it with a stress test. But I'm sitting here telling you
what it's doing in my chest
what happens
right
to
now.
me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that the level of credibility that patients receive when they present in a hospital is just not right. I have friends who have serious medical conditions who have diagnoses from unimpeachable sources, but you take that diagnosis to a different doctor at a different facility and they have to now re-verify everything, or they can't take this stuff that's in writing and certified as part of it. But then as soon as you have a diagnosis, they want to see all your medical history so they can start to put I'm like, yeah, before you go to poking and prodding, let's sit down and have a conversation and really kind of like figure out what's going on here, because I have more information about what's going on with my body and my day-to-day life than anybody else.
Yeah. So you were telling me, so when there's the other person that you've interviewed with endometriosis, so when you find the root, right, or the cause or the other thing that's playing a role other than the cardiovascular, do you explore that as well? Like, okay, so do we or could that be something that might grow, this film might grow legs, and then you explore the connection of like, I'm only using it for reference to this conversation.
Yeah.
So let's explore the connection between disease, ailments like endometriosis and their connection to, cardiovascular, or so-and-so is going through such and such. Like, there's so many branches that could develop. Like, do you explore that, or is this documentary really just about like, let's share our stories that this is a problem? And then are there solutions in your documentary?
Yeah. So it started out like, let's talk about the cardiac conditions in this population. And it has evolved way beyond that. And it's now to the point where it has branched out, and it's now looking at, the cardiac conditions is not all from the heart. Like, especially in the young female population, I have realized from all of the patients that I've interviewed so far and that I'm going to be interviewing that's set up, it all stems from something else. So it's like I had to branch out away from just looking at the cardiac solely, just looking at the heart, and I had to look at the reproductive system and how that leads to cardiac issues in this population. So I branched out into that, and I'm actually researching it now from a root cause point of view. So that is where the research has led me. So that is kind of the evolution point that I'm focused on, the root cause and how medical gaslighting takes us away from the root cause and how it is making the patient suffer, and how we are missing the puzzle piece in this population. So we are keeping the patients from treatment and diagnosis. We're keeping them from the root cause of illness. We're keeping them from actually getting better. And there are solutions. I don't want to kind of spoil them on here.
Right,
That's
okay.
for the documentary.
You don't want to give us the tea,
We're gonna have to watch the documentary.
You're gonna have to watch Broken Hearts for yourself.
Okay, so can you come back when it's out?
I would love to.
All right.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to do a follow up.
But there are solutions. And each doctor that I've spoke to, they each have like their own like solution, and I'm actually going to be working with some of them moving forward to actually implement some big solutions moving forward. But there's some call to actions in this documentary for sure that could actually, as a cardiologist from MGH said, I could change the face of cardiology for this population. So stay tuned. But I cannot give out that information yet.
I dig it. And
That's amazing.
I'm just glad you're giving us this information here. I think it is so necessary.
But I do want to get back to your original question about queerness.
Thank you so much.
I love how we tangented.
That's what we do here. We all over.
But I do want to get back.
Follow us, Cameron. Follow us.
Because it's an important question. And I am not against it. I actually think that it's very important because it's a realm that doctors gaslight. So I would completely be open to having that demographic talk about it, because it actually makes me really upset when doctors don't allow you to identify who you are on the medical forms to check in. Like, it upsets me that now, like, they all need to have all of the check boxes, and a lot of them, it's just female, male, other. And it's still like that on some medical forms. And it still makes me upset that not everyone will be able to identify as themselves going to the doctor.
Shout out to BWH. This ain't a sponsorship, but I have to shout them out because that's where I get my health care. And they actually, the ones that get it right, they don't get it right 10 out of 10 times, and maybe like 8 out of 10 times, but I'm still appreciative of the 8 out of 10 times. But they actually, Phree is not my birth name, right? So, going to somewhere that is, misgendering me or or what I'm saying.
It's important to make sure that they can identify you, who you
right,
who
and
you
BWH allows me to. So if I say there's your preferred name, right, and they will when I'm in sometimes those that do, shout out to y'all know who you are, that respect
the
people's
8 out of 10.
You know what I'm saying?
8 out of 10.
We're talking to you. No, and everybody else do better if there is a preferred name. Like it does make you feel more
comfortable.
I don't think I'll ever feel safe, but it feels right. The comfort, the hospitality in that. We're already in a vulnerable place, especially being, woman, black, brown, person, human, spirit. Being in this, relinquishing control of, not feeling well, and I have to put my care in somebody else's hands. There's already anxiety around that. And then they're not listening to you. And then, because so-and-so has the better insurance, they get a room while you lay right here on the floor and wilt, and how long it takes for you to get into a room because your insurance ain't processing the way it should be processing, and like the double back, right? Oh, let me put you in a room because there's an emergency, and then when they go run it, they're like, well,
you're just gonna sit here for another 3 hours,
and then what does that look like when they're saying, oh, well, we're not gonna scan you. We don't, because it costs money, right? It costs money to run the machines. It costs money to do the MRIs and the CAT scans. And so they'll find an excuse. Oh, well, it's not. You can follow up with your PCP, and coming from, where I come from, the inner cities, and like we don't have, like, healthcare is not accessible. You spoke about it. The disparity is large. And like we don't have, maybe, I don't know, in our homes, through our lineage, through history, we just don't have the thing where we're afraid of it. We won't do it. We won't go there. And I think that is so crucial to, put the information out there. This is the reality. Like, let's put it in terms that people can understand, right? That everyone can understand. And then they are able to take themselves serious. Because a lot of times in the medical field, it sounds like gibberish to a lot of people that,
absolutely,
and they don't even trust the system. So now you're talking at me with, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they're, doing a disservice to their own health. And, that's where the trouble comes into play. And, so I think this is so, it's so important. And I'm so glad that you are here and came on, to talk with us. I want to ask an important question about you, right? And like, has this documentary affected, the more you do research, right? So I know it began with your brother and like, him still being by you and with you through this journey, right? Well, let me not assume. Do you feel like he's still with you and by
Absolutely.
you? Okay, so I just got the vibe, but I don't want to just impose and assume that that's the thing. Okay,
right here.
Okay,
right here.
okay. So
Right
I got the
here.
vibe, but thank you for affirming that. Okay, so through this journey with him and creating this, I would imagine that the discovery of certain things or the stories that you're hearing, may take you back a little bit, or like, challenge your own perspective. And if so, could you talk about some of the things that maybe, aside from the project itself, which I know is very personal, but like actual documentary itself, like personally, like when you're at home at night and when you're sleeping or when you're thinking about it, like, is this something that is just like a constant, like everyday figure out, like, how do you, I know that was a loaded question, but you've been doing so well. You've been doing so well with following. I go all over the place if you see this, but yeah.
So I think for me, like the biggest thing is the fact that I can identify with so many of these stories, and it's hard because I have been on this medical journey for so long, and it actually like has caused a lot of other things. Back in 2018, both of my lungs collapsed. We now know why. I have pulmonary hypertension. But I just got diagnosed with that last year. Wow. But it's like, it took so long to even find out why. But back in 2018, both of my lungs collapsed. I was living in Ohio, but I had to come up here to Boston for treatment. And my brother generously was like willing to go and like give up everything to like bring me up here every month. And I was actually supposed to die. I was given 6 months to live. And we had like some of the best experiences like of my life back then. Like it's the hardest time of my life, but looking back, I'm so thankful for those memories. And it's what pushes me. Those stories though, I'm hearing from others, and I'm hearing that doctors have given other patients a timeline, and they were wrong because they also had the wrong diagnosis. And back then they had the wrong diagnosis for me when the lungs collapsed, and that's why they gave me a timeline. And I'm hearing that with these other patients, and it's like the fact that I can put myself in so many of these other people's shoes of being misdiagnosed, it eats at my soul, because it breaks my heart that I thought it was just bad enough that I've gone through this. And through everything, I always kept telling myself, there's a reason I didn't die. God still has a purpose for my life. But why is everyone suffering? Like, why is so many people suffering? And it's something that can be changed in the system. Like the medical system can be changed for this population. So not as many females have to suffer. But it's like, to me, it's like there's way too many similarities between my story and the women that I'm interviewing. And it's those similarities that makes my eyes open and pushes me. And I'm like, this is why I didn't die in 2018. This is my purpose. And it hits me at my heart that I keep saying that, like, it should have been me instead of my brother, because like I was the one that had the timeline. He was perfectly fine. But I know that everything is in God's hands, and God would not have led me down this path if it wasn't the way that it worked out. And I'm finally entering God's purpose for my life. So he used every single step of the way, every single ounce of suffering. And now I'm giving all of the other voices of suffering a platform, because everyone is suffering in their own way, and they haven't had a voice. Or I've been told by so many women that this is therapeutic for me. Like, I've been holding this all in, and I've been letting in it kind of hinder my life for so long, but you're giving me an outlet and a way to actually appreciate life more. So God's allowing me to use my purpose to help others find their hope and their inspiration, which is what I want my film to do, is to inspire others that they're not alone, and that we might suffer, but there's hope in that. And everything is a purpose by God. And even though it may not make sense to us, and we might cry in the moment, and we might be angry, and we might be angry at the doctors. I don't want this to be a film blaming the doctors. I don't want it to be a film blaming the system, but to bring solutions and to like bring people together and know as women that there's a community and that there's support out there.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that. I think the word, that just came to mind was accountability, right? So like we talk here on the Phree Game Podcast about, silencing culture and like quiet culture, and, you don't say that, you'll get in trouble, or don't say that because you'll expose, or I don't want to, and I am huge on sharing stories because of what you just said. Yeah. The impact it has, right, that in one breath, it's like, oh man, there's so many other people that go through this too. And then it's like, oh man, there's somebody else that I can talk to that understands that, experiences the same things I do, and how much more empowered I may feel, right, when there is a collective that comes together for a cause, and whatever, insert cause there, but it is the unification that is power. And it takes, breaking down the barriers and the walls and the ones we put up, right, ourselves. it stripped those, right? What does it look like? It's a black white thing. It's a this thing. It's a people thing. It's a woman thing. It's a it is a body thing. We are still human beings. Like we are trying to survive this life in some way, shape, or form. And the more that we are out loud about the things that they expect us to be quiet about, the more powerful we become. It rattles the feathers. It gets people angry. But that's how you know you're doing your job. That's how you know that what you're doing is purposeful. When others get mad, you're doing it. It's like, oh, you didn't want me to say that, did you? That's why I'm so loose on the Phree Game Pod. Like, it's very much like uncensored, like go for the be you, do it, say it, and let's talk about it, right? Because that's the only way we're going to get to a solution is if we are honest, if we are transparent, if we remove the facades and the bullshit and we are straight head on with the problem. And I don't think a lot of sectors and fields, especially the medical field, sometimes it's the word of accountability. A lot of people don't want to take accountability, right, for what they're not doing, for the ways that what they're doing is harming, like in general, never mind a system of people. And it is often a fight against the system in this America.
Absolutely.
And in the world, actually. But living in this America, it is literally day to day a fight against the system.
It is.
And, I say all that to say that, I'm very appreciative of this conversation, and those that are watching and listening, I appreciate you for receiving this information and that do reach out to Heather. We're not ending it here because I do want to, how we can, contact you, how can the people, can they see, they want to work it out. We could figure it out. If you are interested, if you're listening to this and you're like, no, or even if you want to know more, are they, where they can contact you to get more information, something we didn't cover, here, maybe they want to be like, well, I got a question now, if that's possible, if you're open to that.
I totally am.
But did you have, I know you've been kind of.
No, you guys are doing great.
This is like,
I have to say,
so
I
huge.
visualized this. No, I'm kidding. This went like,
he's the alchemist of the group.
I thought that this was going
together
to be an awesome and fruitful conversation. I absolutely was not wrong. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Yeah. Is there something else you want to share before you dip, though? Like, is there something I didn't ask you? Well, something you want to...
I just wanted to highlight, you said the word platform, that you want to use your platform to amplify voices. That is very much something that we're about here. And so it's very much serendipity that we met. That you're here today to talk about these things that are very relevant to both Phree and myself and you and our audience. And so, thank you for bringing your platform to our platform and giving us the opportunity to help you boost some of these things that we also are very, very passionate about boosting. I'm sorry, and then you had the
and just to like expand on that is just like, so many things come up. So like we could be here for another hour because my brain cells is firing off with like they're talking about mental health with that. Like this goes into all the conversation about people's, mental health where like anxiety is a real thing, but that, and like, it's just this is Mental Health Awareness month of May. And I hope to get out this podcast, within the next.
You gotta get out soon.
We're gonna get it out soon, so it's gonna be way before your June 1st deadline. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and it plays a role. All of this is connected, right? It's connecting the dots. Like I don't feel like that's gonna be the slogan for the Phree Game Podcast somewhere. It's like connecting the dots somewhere. I don't know, but I just feel like the loopholes, finding the missing, spots and filling them, right, intentionally, is important. And I would love to see where it goes, from here. And like, I know you said you're almost done with the film. I would love to see where the film takes you, but also like what other conversations, we can have, and this is like a lane that could inspire someone else to go out there, like you said, and be like, well, now I want to do a documentary on, there's so many things that we could do. Yeah. And, telling your story and sharing your story gives us the encouragement, right? It gives us like, well, she can do it, so I can do it too. Like, as corny as that sounds, it's true. Like, it is inspiration within itself.
Yeah, like I had no clue what I was doing, like, for this documentary. Like, the media medicine classes at Harvard, like, they helped me more so, like, how to take media and medicine and, like, how to impact medicine with media. It does not tell you how to, like, do a film documentary. Like, I have done all of that myself. So if anyone out there, like, has an idea, like, do not think you have to go pay a ridiculous amount of money to get, like, a certificate class at Harvard Medical School, like, for media and medicine, unless you want to do, like, in the realm of medicine. Like, I will say, if you want to do it in the realm of medicine, the certificate program is a really good option because it's teaching me how to connect media and medicine together. But if you just have an idea for a documentary, you could shoot it from your iPhone. Like, that's one of my cameras. Like, I'm doing 2 cameras, like doing a video camera and an iPhone for 2 shots. But it's like, part of my documentary is shot on an iPhone. Like, it doesn't take much if you have an idea. Like, if you want to inspire hope in this world, you can. Like, it does not take much. And if you're 30 and feel like, hey, I'm going to become a filmmaker now, that can happen too.
Shout out to that. And, like, new age day media and is the thing. Like, everything's turning digital and media. So this is so important on so many levels. Like, the advancement. We need to keep up with the times, y'all, because they burning libraries and
I mean, and I'm, like, wanting to do, like, a film studio LLC, like, make this, like, an actual thing, produce more documentaries. Like, I want to do a film. Like, my goal is to start a film studio in the next coming months. So it's like, have a dream. And
where do you want it to be? Not here.
So I'm actually, like, long term wanting to, like, probably go to Atlanta.
Hey, okay.
But right now it's like, why have a brick and mortar? Like, don't need a brick and mortar right now.
I love this.
That's great.
This is a great conversation.
So it's like, have me back. Like,
no, okay, will you come back? I'm serious.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Then we're going to talk about real life stuff, Heather. We're going to get to who Heather is for real. No, stop playing.
Oh, boy. It's like going deep.
No, I love this. This is great. Yeah, so final thoughts. Is there anything you want to say? Shout out to anybody? Or was that your... Not
I guess,
shout
like,
out to anybody,
final thoughts, but, like, for all, like, the females out there, like, I'm not even going to, like, promote my documentary, but I just want to, like, say, like, you are your own advocate when it comes to medical care. So it's like, make sure that you advocate for yourself and make sure that you know that there's always hope. And the biggest thing that I can give you guys is, okay, I'm going to get real. If you have questions or concerns for your doctor, make sure you tell them when you still are fully clothed. Before they have you change into a robe, make sure that before that barrier of power comes in, that you get all of your questions or concerns out there, because that is when they want to make sure that you feel the most vulnerable. So it's like, I just want to get that message out there that
now we potting.
Nah,
we are potting. We need another hour.
That's definitely the
because
free
now
game.
Heather is potting. That is right up our alley.
That's definitely the free game.
Heather.
The free game for today, for sure.
What?
Like,
thank you. Go ahead.
I just want to, like, make sure that the females out there know that always make sure that you have the power, and that it's one way that I can give you that is free advice. That helps the medical gaslighting, because you have the power. And as women, we need to stand up for our rights. And they want to always do everything when you already feel vulnerable. So make sure, if you have questions and you have concerns, make sure you say it when you still have your clothes on. Because as soon as that gown comes on, they want to be in the powerful position. And who wants to go over all of their medical concerns while
they're naked?
While you're naked, exactly. Like why? So women, there's hope out there, and you have a voice, and you need to be able to use it. So that is
Whoa.
what
This
I
is
have
great.
for you.
I mean, Heather, give me a high five. You're great. Heather's great.
take one
We
of
like
those
great. We like Heather. This is awesome. Abso-friggin-lutely. Last words. Go ahead.
Nah, I'm good. This was
good to go?
amazing. I can't wait until we get to do this again. And yeah, I can't wait to see that documentary.
Thank
It's
you.
gonna be awesome.
And also, Phree, would you like to be in the documentary?
I feel like I just got proposed to. Yes, I would love that. I was gonna ask you, but it was, again, this podcast was not about me, but it was a great place to share. And I would love to talk to you about contributing to the documentary or having a conversation and what
I
that
would
could
love
look
your
like.
voice to
That would
be
be
heard.
that would be really, really great. Y'all see this? This is magical. This is not set up. We don't do scripts around here. You know, we like magical you know what I'm saying? And I've done well. I usually don't keep it this PC with my mouth is
I mean, you know,
I've done well. You know, we have a guest, so I was like, let me be cute and
you're behaving in front of company.
contain. I be showing a little bit because Heather gonna know when Heather comes back for, you know, our real like tea podcast.
spill the tea with
Spill
Heather.
the tea with. Y'all, I'm telling you, this is great. I love magical shit here at the Phree Game Podcast. Yeah, my final thoughts is, again, thank you so much. It was so great meeting you.
as
And
well.
it just was. It's so many things I want to talk to you off air about. But one of the things is just, you know, here live is that we need more people like you, like us, the people that, you know, are willing to share, you know, are offering, right? And welcoming. Those are the kind of people I like.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And we are not perfect. However, we are always working. And I love those that are intentional about doing the work here on this earth. And, you know, shout out to your brother, Justin.
Justin. Yes.
Shout out, Justin. Hey, I ain't never gonna forget you. You know what I'm saying? Justin, shout out to you. You know, work is the work, and you know, don't y'all get freaked out, but we believe in God in here, and I definitely felt Justin's presence in the space. You know,
Yeah.
and so thank you for being present with us, and you know, for holding down your sis. It definitely sounds like, you know, a relationship that I am familiar with my siblings. So, you know, I resonate heavy with the love, because y'all can tell that there's very
True connection.
big
Absolutely.
energy between you two. So thank you for sharing that energy with us here.
Thank
You know, I
you.
don't take that lightly at all. Please, out there, don't matter who you are. I want to say this. Woman, man, non-binary, queer, whoever you are, don't take your clothes off before you answer medical questions.
Absolutely.
Literally.
Absolutely.
No, like anybody. That goes for anybody. I am double downing
Yeah,
on
keep the
what
pow-
Heather said,
Keep the power.
but
Keep the power.
anybody, don't matter. Yes, because no. And shout out to vulnerability. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
So I have one last question.
And yeah,
Where can people find
find you. That's
Reach out to
exactly
you.
what I was about to say. Thank you for cutting me off. Appreciate it.
you? You know, it had to happen at least once.
It's the Aquarian in him. He just has to be able to. What's your
'Cause
sign? Hold
otherwise-
on.
Otherwise, how would you have the
No.
opportunity to ask what her sign is? You know what I'm saying?
You see how he thinks he
I'm a
just mastered?
Scorpio.
Water gang, let's go. I'm a Cancer.
Y'all are
Water
dangerous.
gang. Come on, gang. Come on, water gang. All right. You know, anyways. So yes, we love you. You're at the Phree Game Podcast. It's the only way you're going to find these kind of conversations, for real, for real. Please tap in. Please get in contact. Where can they contact you?
Email, Instagram.
What's the Instagram?
You shout out your Instagram real quick.
Heather Renee Speaks.
At Instagram, and your email's heatherrenee@gmail.com.
Heather R. Yoho@gmail.com.
We'll put it.
on
We'll
the
put it
screen.
on the thing. In the thing, it'll be on the screen in big letters, follows.
Yeah.
Do all the things.
Yeah,
You know?
Renee's my middle name and Yoho's my last name.
Shout out.
Word.
Renee Yoho. Yeah, I better get it right. We are really serious about names. Like, we have a whole
We have a whole
episode on it.
episode about names.
We're like, nah, we gonna
It's
get
one
it
of
right.
the first things that we had to set straight.
Is it
like,
Angela Bassett or Bassett?
Don't be
This
messing
one over
up
here always
people's
want-
names. You know what I mean?
Because he
So-
always want to correct everybody, you know.
Yo,
He says Angela Bassett
saying
It's
is.
Bassett. Is it not?
We're gonna end there.
That's perfect.
That was awesome.